Okay guys, so today we're going to look at multiplicity and how to find zeros using more complicated polynomials. So we have the following: f of x equals negative x cubed. Well, that's an ugly negative. That'll be negative x cubed plus 4x squared minus 4x. Well, before we find whether our graph is A, B, C, or D, we need to find the zeros. So what can I take out from all of these to make it easy for me? Well, I could take out an x, right? Because all of them have them. But if I really want to make it easy for myself, look at the beginning. This is a negative x cubed. If I wanted to make this a little simpler, I could take out a negative x. And look what's going to happen. That negative x cubed turns into a positive x to the second power. That positive 4 turns into a negative, because remember, you took out a negative. Negative times a negative will turn it back to a positive. Negative 4x, because you took it out squared. Remember, you took it out. And that will be, instead of a minus, you put a plus 4. Okay, remember, it's equal to 0. Let's keep solving, guys. Can we do the diamond method for the inside parentheses? Remember, a times c and b. So a times c, that's 1 times 4. They'll give me a 4. And the top is a negative 4. So what two numbers multiply? It gives me positive 4, but adds to negative 4. You guessed it, that's a negative 2 and a negative 2. Because negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. Use a calculator if you don't believe me. Now, let's keep rewriting this, guys. Negative x, parentheses, x minus 2, parentheses, x minus 2, equal to 0. Well, guys, aren't these the same parentheses? So couldn't I just rewrite it and say negative x, parentheses, x minus 2 squared equals 0? Now you're talking. Well, let's go ahead and separate them so we can solve for x. One of my zeros could be negative x equals 0, or x minus 2 squared equals 0. So here is where multiplicity is going to kick in. Multiplicity basically says how the graph is going to interact when it crosses the x. So when you have a multiplicity, when my highest exponent is 1, when my line crosses the x, it's going to cross like a straight line because it's to the power of 1. It's going to cross like a line. When you have x to the second power, when you have to the second power, remember, it's a parabola. So if I were to draw another graph here, if it were to cross on the x, it's actually going to cross, it's going to touch, but it's going to bounce to show like a parabola. That's multiplicity. And one more. If I had x to the third power, when it's going to go through the x, how do you think it's going to interact? It's going to go, but it's going to cross like an S. It's going to cross like an S. That is called multiplicity, guys. It all depends on the relationship as it's crossing the x-axis. Well, guys, look at this one. Let's look at the first one. Negative x equals 0. That's a negative 1, right? Divided by negative 1. So we found out that x equals 0. And that's a multiplicity of 1. So it's a multiplicity of 1. So it's going to cross like a line. Look at this one. We find the square root. What's the square root of 0? That's just 0. We have x minus 2 equals 0 plus 2. So my x is equal to 2. And that has a multiplicity of 2, remember? Because the exponent was 2. So that's going to cross like a parabola. So we know at 0 is going to cross like a line. At 2 is going to cross like a parabola. Here we go. We said, and let me rewrite them on top here. So at 0 is going to cross as a line. When x equals 0, it's going to cross as a line. When x equals, let me write it over here. When x equals 2, is going to cross like a parabola. Let's check them out. At 0, let's look at letter A. At 0, is it crossing like a line? No, look, it's crossing like a parabola. We needed it to cross like a line, so that's wrong. At B, at 0, is it crossing like a line? No, it's another parabola. We needed to cross like a line. That's wrong. Look at this one. At 0, is it crossing like a line? Yes. But now, we also needed to cross at 2, like a parabola. Look, it's not even touching positive 2. So that's wrong. Look at this one. At 0, it's still crossing like a line. And what happens at 2? At 2, doesn't it cross like a parabola? So it crosses like a line at 0. It crosses like a parabola at 2. Therefore, letter D is the answer.